We're now going to cover an amazingly popular female comic who's been in so many movies. She's currently in a television show that's very popular as well. Everybody knows her. Everybody loves her. Ali Wong.
Ali Wong. Last time I saw her, we did Ponchos in
Ponchos.
Manhattan Beach. Yeah,
No
she
kidding.
came down to run a set. And she was great. It was just sort of like, I think a lot of being a star is not only having a talent, but having the disposition, the belief, and not belief that like, oh, I'm better than anyone, but just a belief that you deserve it and just live in it. Because I think it's a lot for some people, you know, and I think she, maybe because she already has a family, she seems to be handling it well. And when she came down there, she was like, you know, I need to try these jokes, and struck a nice balance between making them laugh, but also doing what she came to do in terms of her new jokes, which a lot of comics will bail, and, you know, especially if they see other comics doing well, they'll bail and do jokes that they know work, where sometimes you came to do your newer stuff, or at least mix it up, one for you, one for me kind of thing.
Yeah, we go back to ego. You know, there's a lot of ego in the world of stand-up comedy because it's such an individual sport where you just want to like, you're on a lineup with other people. It's like a home run derby. How many dingers did you hit? Oh, 15.
Right,
I got to be 15,
right,
and then you get up
exactly.
there and you take your at bats. Whereas maybe you don't feel like, you know, winning the home run derby that. Maybe you came to do something else that day. So This special is called Hard Knock Wife, and in this one, you know, she's pregnant. So yeah, it's a great title.
There's certain things in our society, right, that you can go, regardless of monetary levels, you can go, I made it, right? There's a few things, and two things that come to mind is, one, when there's a dance named after you, right? Like when there was a dance called the Pee Wee Herman, it was like, okay, this guy's, and rest in peace to Pee Wee Herman and Paul Rubens, but when that happens, it's like, oh, this guy's he's in the zeitgeist, like completely. And the second thing that I can think of off the top is when people dress as you for Halloween.
Okay.
And after this came out, mad people dressed as her for Halloween.
That's right, they did. The pregnant.
Yeah, so that's like.
With the glasses, that's right.
That's like Peg Bundy status. That's
amazing.
It's amazing, yeah.
Speaking of Peg Bundy, that's a very Peg Bundy
dress
that she's wearing. She's wearing that leopard print miniskirt thing. Yeah.
And I guess the third thing is if they use your name as a verb. But definitely when you see people dressed as you for Halloween, it means you were impactful and remembered. You know what I mean?
Huge.
And I think also doing a special while you're pregnant, I think Kira Sultanovich may have done that too, but it's not a common thing. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not a common thing. Like, I'm sure even her people are like, well, why don't you just wait? But instead she leaned into it, right?
Yep.
You know, Hard Knock Wife. Boom. It's on.
Smart too, because
super smart.
It's, you know, people that may not even, they can't remember the name of the special. Maybe they don't even remember her name, but they go, oh, did you watch that Netflix comedy show with the pregnant girl? She's so funny, that pregnant girl.
If you Google pregnant comedy special, I'm sure she'll pop up. Right.
I was going to say earlier, I would like to have a drink named after me. There's not a lot of people that have drinks named after me. All I can think of is Arnold Palmer.
Or drink too. Or a sandwich.
All right, so this is a bit that Ali's doing called Ali Wong Wants to Be Mexican in Her Next Life. And it's a great bit.
I'm on board.
Let's get it.
Yes.
I'm so jealous of Mexican people. Mexican culture. They don't need no nannies, because you know who takes care of the baby? The other baby. Hermana, tia, abuela, sobrina, prima, second prima, bounce house. The baby is just born into childcare. I want to be Mexican in my next life. Don't nobody have more fun than Mexicans. I used to live at Crenshaw and Pico. Yes, if you don't know, Crenshaw and Pico is this magical corner in the hood of Los Angeles where Guadalajara meets Korea. And the Mexicans and the Koreans are in constant racial warfare.
You know, I just want to say one thing. What I love about this joke is people who, if you don't live in LA, you don't know this, but like, there are probably more Mexicans in Koreatown than there are Koreans. It's just Korean businesses,
That's
right?
right.
But it's like most, maybe Beverly Hills, most areas in LA are Mexican areas, with a few exceptions. But I love it. And I love that she's tapping into that because people would not know that, if you're not from LA.
And their weapons are loud music versus frowning. Mexicans know how to prioritize family and fun. They take their kids to Disneyland all the time. And now to accommodate, there is all of this Spanish at Disneyland. Every ride begins with, ladies and gentlemen, for your safety, please keep your arms and hands inside the vehicle at all times. Damas y caballeros, por favor, mantenga los manos y los abrazos entre la coche. Y por favor, no fumas. Porque es grosso y peligroso, ¿ok? ¿Ok? Y los empleados deben lavarse las manos antes de regresar al trabajo, ¿ok? Ok, ten cuidado. Ten mucho cuidado, porque hay tacos de lengua, hijo de puta manzana. Late at night when all the world is sleeping. Yes, that's how Mexican Disneyland has gotten. They play Selena on Pirates of the Caribbean. The Haunted Mansion is now called Dia de los Muertos. And what was formerly known as Splash Mountain is now a Splash Mountain.
So I watched this bit earlier, and I was thinking, coming from a comic standpoint, the structure of the Mexican Disneyland bit.
Right.
First of all, the bit is amazing.
Yes.
All
Absolutely.
three of those parts are great, right? Does the announcement on the ride, they now call the Haunted Mansion
And
this,
she sings Selena,
and Splash Mountain, ending on Selena. It was funny to me to see this structure because I would have, and this is just me looking at it from a structural standpoint, nitpicking as a comic, which we always seem to do on the show. And we get comments about it. Why are you guys getting so deep on it? It's like, because this is what we do, bro.
Right.
I would have ended on the act out. I would have ended on that big long announcement on
Right.
because it was so the accent was spot on.
It was. Yeah.
Singing on Selena. I mean, that is huge. To me, that's where the section would have ended. I would have done the mansion thing. I would have done the thing. Two smaller laughs, and then boom. And then, and if you have to get off stage early at some point for whatever reason, you could just stop right there. That's a big banging ending.
Right.
She's going to get into another part of the bit that doesn't have to do with Disneyland. But I thought it was funny to go the ba 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 ba, and then she goes doot doot with the two smaller ones at the end, which aren't tags to the ride.
Right.
They're just separate things, but they're just, when you get into a bit, you sort of go, I'll give you a little crumb.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little crumb.
There could be
and then now here it comes, boom.
There could be a few reasons for that. It's kind of, I'll say it's like the Warriors don't get a lot of credit for, especially Steph Curry. Now he does, but for a while it was like he's not a finisher. He's not a, but it's like, yeah, they're blowing everybody out.
He don't need to be a finisher.
Yeah, he's sitting in the fourth quarter. So you want him to make the game close, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
there's a little bit of that going on. And I think what happens is two things. A few things. One, it depends on the next bit. And does doing the two lesser powerful jokes run into the next bit smoother, right? Two, when you're writing a joke, I don't know if, we'd have to have her tell us, but sometimes when you're writing a joke, what you think is this like massive crescendo, in the beginning, when you're first trying it out, it can be hit or miss, even though you're like, why is it hit or miss? So sometimes what happens is your thought is like, that should be at the end. But then you just start doing it not at the end, and you have the safety valve. Like, if this doesn't get quite the laugh, because there's nothing like ending on a big note
and
not getting a big laugh or a clap,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So having these two jokes afterward
yeah.
sort of like allows you to be like, well, that was a throwaway. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's more like, anyway, what I was saying was, so that way, you sort of like.
You sort of save yourself.
You have an escape hatch pattern. So I think it could be something to that effect. Either it runs into the next joke smoother, or she just got used to doing it there.
Mm-hmm.
Because also what happens is if it gets a really big laugh, you just skip the next two.
You could skip the next two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's
right.
right.
But if it doesn't get the laugh you want, you do the next two. And I don't know if I think it got a big laugh. I don't know what her thinking was. You know what I mean? But as comics, we have decision trees. So we're like doing our jokes, and based on what the crowd does, it becomes like this flow chart. We'll skip here, do this, do that kind of thing.
Yeah, which makes it much more sophisticated. The things that are going on behind the scenes that the audience has no idea.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to say about this, we've talked about this on other episodes about doing accents that aren't your own.
Yeah.
Of some other culture, and how we're in a weird place right now, where you do an accent of an ethnicity that you are not, you can run into some trouble. Her Mexican accent and all this, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, that just shows so much love. She took the time to, I mean, it's spot on. It's unbelievable.
It's like, it shows you that has admiration for it, and she's close to it. And so she knows what she speaks of. Also, this is like, maybe the special is like 6 years old, something like that. Mm-hmm. So even in that 6 years, things have changed, But on top of that, she's a woman. And, I think she did a good job of explaining, and throughout the joke explaining, like Koreatown, like I probably 30% of the Koreans in Koreatown can speak Spanish. You know what I mean? Like it's really. Yeah.
How many times have you been in a business?
It's a Mexican neighborhood,
How many times have you been in a business in LA and it's like it's owned by Asians but they got Mexicans working in the kitchen and they speak in Spanish to them, and then they turn around and they speak English to us, and then and they speak Chinese or whatever amongst themselves. Very common. Very common. And the first time you see it, you're just blown away. I'm like, oh my God, this woman speaks Spanish? Yeah. Wow, that's phenomenal.
And I think it's because she's sort of saying she's also speaking complimentary. Like there's some jokes in there, but I think she's being earnest and honest in saying that she likes how they do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it shows love. The other thing I like about her whole Spanish section, which you could do your Spanish thing and cut it in half, but she's like, it's a longer Spanish thing. She does a couple things towards the end though that bring it more surprise. She says a line like really angry.
Right.
She gets really angry. She changes her tone of doing it. And then she also throws a swear in there. She throws in puta at the end, too. So she does a couple other things rather than just do the accent, which is funny enough. And as soon as you get into your second sentence, people are just going to lose it because you're doing it so well. She goes, I'm not done there. Let me do it. And then and it takes on an angry personality to give it another, raise it up another notch, and then drops in a swear, and then sings Selena, which is just like, it's just, it's so brilliant.
And it's great love that she sings a Selena right after the curse, to like soften it. And I think what I like about it too is that it's it goes back to her first initial premise: Mexicans have more fun, so they're more carefree, like loud music versus frowning. So now you're at Disney World and you've got people having fun, and they're not following all the rules. And instead of saying that, she says it in Spanish, so she emotes it more than she says it. And I think there's truth to it, and it's her truth, and it's really funny, and it's efficient because she didn't explain to you that they don't keep their arms in and they don't do this thing. She just gave you the person giving the warning.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And then she throws in no smoking, which she didn't say in the English part. No smoking.
Right,
and
things that you have to tell them.
Yeah,
you don't have,
exactly. Right. I mean, there's just so much to it.
Our nanny is 62 years old. Yes, I would never accept anything younger than 62 years old. If you are hiring a 25-year-old pretty young thing to be your nanny, you a dumbass. Do you not read People magazine? You don't know what's up? That's inviting a marriage grenade into your home. When you have a newborn baby, your marriage is very weak because you're both stressed out, you look like shit because you don't shower no more, you're resentful of each other. Whose idea was it to bring this new roommate into the world? Your marriage is very vulnerable and easy for an outsider to invade and colonize. If we had hired a 25-year-old man who was not ugly, great with my daughter, and said yes immediately to every chore I asked him to do with a positive attitude, oh, you best believe that I would eat the shit out of his butthole.
That took a turn.
I know. You had to, because we're expecting,
right.
Let me tell you something. What are you going to say? Suck his dick? We're going to say, leave my husband for him. Like all the things you don't go eat butthole. She goes butthole.
Yeah, it had to be butthole because this is how appreciative I am of this thing.
That too.
You know what I mean?
This is how much I
doing
appreciate
the chores, saying yes with a positive attitude. And I like when she said, "You're a dumbass." It cut to the audience for a second. And I like her, her special, she doesn't cut to the audience that much. She does here in a wide shot. So you just wondered if she cut out a line or two. Because cutting to the audience sometimes is great because, you want the people watching at home to see people having a good time. But sometimes you cut to the audience to cut out a line or two. Mm-hmm. So it's not a jump cut. So to them, back to you. You know what I mean? And if that is so, I wonder what she said.
Every day. Every day would be an all-day nanny butthole buffet. I don't care if his 25-year-old butt cheeks got all nervous and clenched up and closed on my face like elevator doors. I would get in there and just... like Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
That's great. I thought she was going to say, "Here's Ali."
Could have added a "Here's Ali."
Yeah.
That's a great little button right there.
That's great. Huh?
Good act out.
Oh, great act out. And I like that. Like, here's what happens a lot. And I think this is what we're saying when we were talking about Smokey Robinson, the showmanship. Like, the butthole thing was funny, right? But the act out is just takes to another level. It also softens it. Like, because ending on butthole, some people are going to laugh. Other people are like, "Oh, did you have to go there?" And oddly enough, up in the ante and doing the act out, I think you get everyone on board. Now, because it goes into this silly place.
That's right.
That somehow becomes undeniable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that, like, it wasn't heavy-handed, because sometimes when women objectify men, especially when they objectify younger men, there's just it doesn't resonate or something. You know what I mean? There's a weird kind of like, it feels like they're trying to be like men. It's like, you guys do it, we're gonna do it. But with her, that bit of that part of the bit, it felt really honest. It felt like, no, we are attracted to young men too. Not because we're trying to act like, not because we're doing what men have done for centuries. It's because youthfulness is attractive, and youthfulness that listens to you and does things for you. Sure. And your husband is stressed out, and it's all even more so attractive. So it felt like there was nothing gratuitous about it, because it felt like it was just, this is how much you need this. This is how weak a marriage is at that exact moment.
Yes.
You know, so it wasn't just like I'm being dirty for the sake of being dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's an important choice to kind of hammer that home is when she says a 25-year-old who is not ugly.
Right. She didn't say
he's got abs.
Gorgeous. Right.
Yeah,
right.
6'5".
Right. That's a great point. Yes.
You know, so it stays in that other place that you were talking about where it's very truthful. Someone who's not ugly.
Right.
That's how vulnerable the situation is.
Right. Right. And you know, and
I'm not going for it. I'm not going for trying. You know, it's just that you're there and you're not ugly. That's enough because the situation's so
right.
So
and she said, like, haven't you read People magazine? And I think it's a good choice to not be specific because, you know, you run into people in Hollywood, you know, as a comic, you don't think you are, but then you say something about somebody and you run into them. But she could have given examples. Like, there are famous people who we know, probably more than one, who've hooked up with their nanny. And, like, what I also love is that it has to come from a woman. You know, because if a man says it, it's like, oh, can't you just, you know, not sleep with a 25-year-old? You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like she's saying, and what I love about it too is she's tapping into the old country and what parents tell you, what people just knew. Like, remember, people used to know shit. People used to have a certain wisdom, and now we've eradicated that wisdom because we lean into how things should be. There's how things should be and how things are. And I love what she's doing because there's a lot of how things are. Should you be able to hire a 25-year-old nanny, guy or girl, and not hook up with them? Yes. Is it better to get a 62-year-old to just not even deal with that? Yes. Like when my man from Mad Men, what's his name? Don Draper. Eventually, it was like, Don, you keep boning secretaries. We're going to give you an old one.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in the show Suits. So I just love it when, like people can just be honest. In comics, it's our job. But you got to do it in such a way because, you know, it's one thing to vilify the man. And I love, too, the joke. She's not vilifying the man. She's not saying, like, all these men are hooking up with nannies. She's saying it's going to happen. Either way, just hire a 62-year-old.
Yeah.
I think it's a great...
She's not denying reality.
Yeah, she's not denying... And she's not even beating you over the head with it, but it's just... It's there. It's like... It's undeniable. Like... You know, like there's this old thing of... I walked down the street. I fell into a hole. And then next time I walked down the street, I pretended I didn't know it was there, and I fell into the hole. It's something like that. And then eventually the guy just doesn't walk down that street. I forget how it goes exactly, but it's like, don't walk down that street. Don't even tempt fate.
There's a thing about shifting responsibility, though. No one wants to take personal responsibility anymore. So we all say, no, this is how it should be. You should be able to do this, and then everyone should be able to control themselves. Well, and then if they can't, we just blame it on something else. But no, at the base of it, there are things that you should not do and things that you and you got to be on that. You have to take the personal responsibility. If I hire a 25-year-old hot guy, and then you know I come home and my wife and him are making out, like, all right, there's a little bit of personal responsibility there on me. I did something
not all
dumb.
on you, but
sure.
You could have avoided it.
Sure.
Right.
It's like I had this discussion with a friend of mine recently. She's a comic, and she complained that these creepy men were coming to her shows. Mm-hmm. Well, if you were to look at her social media...
Oh, I see.
All right. It's I got a low-cut shirt, I'm in the mirror, and here's my shows this week.
Right.
So we had a conversation, and she was very upset with me that I said that you have some responsibility here.
Right.
Some of it is yes, these guys, sure, some of these guys are way off base. Absolutely. Right. They're boundaries. But when you're behaving in a certain way that sort of opens the door to more of this boundary dissolution,
right.
You have to take some of that responsibility on you. And your behavior should change as well. You know, it's like what you were saying earlier, like there's a way it should be, but then there's the way that it is. Right. Sure, you should be able to post a sexy ass photo of yourself and be like, tonight I'm going to be at the Comedy Chateau, and a creepy dude shouldn't come and follow you around. But reality, you can't
control that creepy dude. Yeah,
the reality is, this is the world we live in. If you post a pic like this and say, it's the weekend, guys, I can't wait, and then this is where and then it's where I'm going to be.
Right. It's like my door here, right? You can lock it with your hand and then close it. But then at some point, the key's going to be inside. You're going to lock yourself out, right? It's just going to happen. So I take that event completely out of the equation because I always lock the door with the key, right? Because, listen, even if I leave my house 100 times, I lock it with, like, by flipping a switch and then slamming it shut. Even 1,000 times, there's gonna be at least one time where
that's right.
Oh shit, that's not my key. That's some change. Just take it off the board. And I think that's what I love about this bit. I love how because she's not saying like, oh, it's like she's not like, say if you were married and say like, you know, some nanny, you hire some 25-year-old nanny and he hooks up with your lady. It's not all your fault. We're just saying perhaps you could have avoided the whole thing. It's still not even mainly your fault. It's still her fault and his fault. Maybe 90%, maybe 92, maybe 99%. Let's give it that. But the 1% was you just not hiring them. And right. I think you know, I just love that she. But it's sometimes you gotta put things. You got to change the genders to make people see. Because she starts off saying, don't hire a young, hot female nanny. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone's on board, but, you know, some people are kind of like probably thinking what we're saying. Oh, you should be able to hire a nanny. Your husband should be able to control himself. Mm-hmm. Control himself. And she's saying, well, I should be able to control myself. But I'm not sure if I can. I love when you I have a bit like that now. When you can especially get people to think about something without ever really, really like head on saying it. I mean, some comics like to sort of get preachy and get on a soapbox. She's just being funny, but making this point, you know?
Yeah, I like that you said the comics getting preachy and on their soapbox with stuff like this, because a lot of times that kind of philosophical argument is made on the stage in a way that is a bit preachy, and that just kind of
and also people become defensive. Yeah, like, what is he gonna say?
That's right. Yeah. The people just no, they're not not liking it. You can't get, and you just can't. It's harder to get into the bones with when you're delivering it that way. But if you can kind of do what she does, like you said, she's being silly. You know, it sneaks in there. You know,
and I love that it puts guys on notice too, because guys. You're not the only one that can hook up with somebody younger.
Right.
You know, that's why, like, I tell people, like, a lot of famous guys who get in trouble. I go, listen, if you're not a famous guy, and I'm not including myself, I don't think I'm that level of fame. But, like, if you're a regular guy, you're good looking, whatever, but you just go to work, come back home, you have no idea. So when you're judging other guys, what you're judging is, you're like, well, I'm with someone, I don't chase tail, you know, and you pat yourself on the back. I'm proud of myself. I don't chase tail. Good for you. Good for you. But you don't know what it's like. These famous guys aren't chasing tail. See, not chasing tail is admirable, but dodging tail, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. And to keep dodging it. And then just that one day where, like, you just had an argument with your old lady.
Come on.
She's on your nerves, and that happens to coincide with the day with, like, the girl that's throwing it that day is your dream girl that you've, like, so, like, on this day, your wife is acting funny style, or your boo thing is acting funny style, and you're getting it thrown at you, and you've dodged it 100 times in a row. You see what I mean? And I think that's what, so, you know, it's always like, don't judge a man till you walk a mile in his moccasins. I don't know what it's like, but, you know, I've heard guys on YouTube, famous guys, people brought their daughters to me, and it's just...
Imagine.
Yeah.
And you didn't even mention alcohol.
Oh, yeah, not to mention that, right?
I mean,
exactly.
If I had a few, you know, if I've had a few drinks, I'm very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable on the booze. I'm very vulnerable, man.
Like the way to avoid that is to not be in certain situations when you're drinking, or don't drink. Whatever the thing is, even if it's just you don't want to eat potato chips or you don't want to eat snacks.
Sure.
It's avoiding the temptation. And this is what Ali's talking about. It comes way earlier. Like, don't buy the chips at the store.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think, I'm going to buy them and then I'm just not going to eat them. No, they're in your house now.
Yep.
So she's saying, don't, like, hiring a 62-year-old nanny is like not buying the chips at the store. And I know, like, you think we're reading into this bit, but we're not. She's saying this exact same thing. She's just saying it in a funny way. Just hire a 62-year-old, hire a nanny that no one wants to bone, and then you're good. And if you're 62 out there, you might be boneable. So I'm not jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, we don't want to lump all 62-year-olds in the non-boneable basket.
Yeah, girl, you look good. Why don't you slowly back that thing up? Slowly. Don't hurt no.
Use a walker if you have to. I'll buy some tennis balls for your walker. I'm not insensitive to your needs.
Right.
Well, this was a great bit. I'm glad we got to Ali. We've been meaning to get to her for a while. She's marvelous, and she has tons of clips on YouTube. She's got a bunch of specials, and they all seem to come out on Netflix because she's at that level.
Yeah. And it's the good marriage, good sort of meeting of good writing and good performing. Great writing and great performing, because a lot of times people are great writers and the performing isn't there, the timing isn't there. She has both, and or sometimes people are like super performers, but the material is lacking. I think I like that she's both, and I like that she doesn't mind being silly. This is what relates to, like, I would say common people, regular people, not like people in the back of a comic book store. Not wrong with those people. Those people are cool, but they're more like super users. You have to make like the mom who's at home and still be smart. That's what I like. It's not pandering. So it's a nice thing she's got going on.
The other thing we didn't mention, what I think should be mentioned, is the state of her organism while doing this special.
Yeah.
Now, I've never been pregnant, but I hear your hormones are like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You're going through a lot of stuff.
And she's pregnant, like at least 6 months, right? 8 months, something like that.
Just to do a special is probably the most stressful thing a comic can do.
Absolutely.
Leading up to it, preparing for it, and then trying to pull it off without a hitch. Yeah. She did it in
great.
In a place where her body was probably, who knows what was going on chemically with her. To be able to do it and knock it out of the park, it's like, wow, girl.
Oh, yeah, hats off to that for sure.
Totally.
I wonder if, like, there's something about letting go of all vanity. She looked good. She actually looked great. The dress was great. But it's also like, this is what I'm doing. This is the most important thing to me. Maybe family, comedy second. But it's like, what's way down on the list is vanity and how I look. And I think when you have something, whatever it is, that's a little different, odd, jarring, you can't hide it. Once you come to terms with it, it becomes like it solidifies you, because now you don't have the vanity. Like I'm sure a lot of comics, male and female, like, how do I look? Am I comfortable? She's like, I'm out to here pregnant. Yeah. Let's just do it. You know what I mean?
I'm not even wearing loose clothing.
Yeah, it gives you this like second layer of not giving a fuck, which is important. Like caring enough to write great jokes, but not caring how I look or how I'm perceived. That's very freeing, very liberating, and it comes across.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. If you guys have a comic that you would love us to react to, our email is realcomediansreact@gmail.com, or you can write a little comment in the section of this video. Thanks, Dwayne. That was amazing.
Man. Yeah.